This opening screen really defined my childhood. I played this game over and over again as a kid. You see, my neighbor had a copy and I would borrow it from him all the time. No matter how many times I played it though, I never could quite get the feel for it. Defense is particularly frustrating, and the other frustrating part is that feeling of not knowing who you're actually controlling. But I guess it still counts as a classic. Now, Tecmo NBA Basketball on the NES came out in late 1992 at a time when the NES was really winding down, and it's an ambitious game, let me tell you. You can play through an entire NBA schedule choosing one team, or even more than one team if you want. The game gives you complete statistics when you're done. This includes complete player-by-player statistics for both teams, including the substitutes. There's also a system for playing computer-controlled games really quickly. And the statistics that the game keeps track of are extremely impressive, especially for an 8-bit system. Honestly, my only big complaint about this game is that the play control is just awful. That, plus I have no idea who in the world I'm controlling. The screen just keeps flickering. Okay, look at this screen for a second. Can you tell which player is which? No, you can't. They all look exactly the same. In fact, it's really hard to tell where the one is, especially when the players start moving again. The players are moving in formation, which is pretty cool, but you can't tell who you are or what you're supposed to do. And the worst part is that you'll wind up changing players on defense to a guy who is way out of position. Now, offense is easy, just pass until you find the open man. And on defense, the only thing I found that works is just spamming the button until you've stolen the ball. Then you get the wide open fast break dunk, and then you start again. It's kind of tedious, isn't it? It's kind of hard to imagine playing this game for the full 82 game season. Of course, the cool thing is that you've got a roster full of real players, something that none of the other NES basketball games had. You've also got foul calls, though I'm honestly not sure what triggers the foul. It seems that pushing forward when a guy is standing in front of you is a guaranteed charging foul, and pressing the A button too much to steal will get you called for a defensive foul. But the problem is that the only viable defensive strategy is to just spam the A button over and over again. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Well, it's a pretty inconsistent game in that respect. I'm not sure that you can make a strategy even if you really wanted to. Despite the fact that it was released late in the system's history, Tecmo NBA Basketball got a lot of hype when it came out. So this is from the November 1992 issue of Nintendo Power, which gave us a preview. It was the December issue, volume 43, that had the full review. Now, the magazine is absolutely right when it says that it's a grueling 82-game season. It's especially grueling if you have to keep playing games like this over and over again. This well-written GameFAQs review agrees, calling the game repetitive motion disorder. You're basically just spamming the same buttons over and over again. Now, this game does include set plays that you can call. I've never seen them actually work, however. The problem is that your players usually just stand around on offense and look at you. And on defense, they do absolutely nothing unless you select them and spam the A button. This part is my favorite piece of advice. Since the ball is difficult to see, watch the numbers and arrows and don't blink. Well, I think that this game is the classic example of a concept that was good, but execution that was really poor. I mean, the battery save idea was fantastic and really ahead of its time, but why couldn't we have a game that played a little bit more like, Double Dribble? One of Tecmo's problems is that the players are too tall. It's easier to see which player you control in Double Dribble because they're shorter. The other problem is that Tecmo keeps making situations where all 10 guys are on the screen at once. Double Dribble simply has guys hanging out in the other end of the court for no apparent reason. Problem solved. Now, if you look at a clip of Tecmo Super Bowl, any clip will do, you'll see the difference. Tecmo Super Bowl makes it really easy to see who you're controlling. The players are also smaller, making it a lot easier to see what's actually going on. Tecmo NBA Basketball has a court that looks like it was drawn by a child in Microsoft Paint. And the players are simply too tall and blink too much for you to tell what's going on. So, do I think that this is the best 8-bit basketball game? Well, obviously I don't, but I would say that it's pretty close. Look, the save feature and customization is simply awesome. That's why we played this game so much when we were kids. If you compare it with something like Hoops on the NES, well, there's no comparison. Hoops is a really frustrating game to play, and it's really limited. Double Dribble has better gameplay, I'd argue, but that's in part because it's not as ambitious as Tecmo was. Tecmo is built on shooting percentages and other stats, and that's really a lot for the NES to compute. Now, the Kunio-kun NES game looks better, sure, but it's even more chaotic than Tecmo Basketball. I mean, at least in Tecmo I can sort of come up with a strategy. Now, if you compare Tecmo to something like Great Basketball on the Sega Mark III, it becomes obvious just how much better Tecmo really is. The truth is that there aren't a lot of really great 8-bit NES basketball games out there. So keep that in mind when you're making your judgment about which game to go back and play again. Now, in my opinion, Tecmo is probably the second best basketball game on the NES. I would still much rather play Double Dribble, however. That game is actually fun. The Tecmo game feels more like a chore, but what do you think?